Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to our webinar on cybersecurity in connected industry and navigating EU cybersecurity regulations and best practices. In today's webinar session, we will be focusing on the cybersecurity in the connected industrial system. We will be discussing about the challenges, EU cybersecurity regulations, and how to address cybersecurity in the industrial automation by adapting the best practices to build secure and connected system. My name is Amit Nanawat. I will be your host for today's webinar. I am Director of Solution Engineering at Qt Group. Joining me today, Gerald Krebs, who brings extensive experience in the product and sales management for the cybersecurity at TÜV Information Technique. In, in the first part of today's session, Gerald will provide an overview of EU regulations and directives related to the cybersecurity. Also, key recommendation to integrate IEC 62443 and Cybersecurity Resilience Act into the product development. In the second part, I will be sharing insights from Qt Group and provide overview on how Qt Group can help to address cybersecurity challenges in the connected industry. I will give highlights on the Qt workflow. Please note that you can submit your questions at any time using Q&A button on the bottom of your screen. We will address as many as possible the live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. If we don't answer your questions during the live Q&A, we will follow up your questions by email afterwards. We are thrilled to have you today and looking forward to an engaging session. Let's kick start. For the first part, over to you, Gerald.
Okay, thanks, Amit. Hello to all. So my topic will be for today to discuss European Union cybersecurity regulations for digital products. I'm belonging to TÜV Informationstechnik GmbH. It's a part of TÜV Nord Group, and we are dealing with cybersecurity. So I'm with TÜV IT since all about 7 years. Before that, I worked all about 20 years for Siemens Networks and Nokia Networks as customer security officer, and having implemented as in this position many processes in the company simply to improve the software development in regards to cybersecurity. So, okay, coming to the content. First point would be about, in general, European Union regulations with a focus on Radio Equipment Directive, Cyber Resilience Act, NIS2, PSTI. It's not belonging to European Union. It's a regulation in the UK market. Then I will speak about cyber security evolution in European Union. What was the status, or what is it up to now? What will come up? Then cybersecurity for operators and manufacturers. Finally, they can combined, or they are somehow, let me say, they are somehow combined. So it's not only an issue of you are an operator or manufacturer only, and that's it. No, finally you are affected by both regulations in general. Then I will, let me say, raise a statement, go for IEC 62443, and I will explain you why. Then I will give you a short introduction into IEC 62443 on a very high level. And finally, I will, let me say, do some closing remarks. Okay, going to the European regulations and directives on cybersecurity, here you will see a lot of regulations and directives that are already, let me say, that are already effective or are planned and will become effective. There are some important, especially for software developers or company doing software development. There are three major directives and regulations. First of all, that will become effective, let me say, already in this year. It's the Radio Equipment Directive. I will mention what's behind later. Then we have the NIS2 directive that is Normally, it already was planned for year 2024, but it was somehow postponed and will become effective, let me say, in very near time frame for operators. And then we have the Cyber Resilience Act that will address all digital products and will become effective end of year 2027. Yeah. However, there are a lot of further regulations. So, because sometimes I will get questions from manufacturers. Okay, trying to find a way to avoid the laws. I simply like to give you the picture. Finally, don't waste time. Consider the laws. There are effective ways to, let me say, fulfill the laws. That's it. Yeah. Please invest your time into fulfilling the laws and not trying to avoid them, because simply due to the amount of laws, not only on European level, on international level, that is reflected in the inner ring. So you see, most of all companies, or not companies, countries have laws now to regulate cybersecurity. So what was the status in European Union before year 2027? Finally, only critical infrastructure was affected. So they have to pass, especially in Germany, all 2 years verification. Let me say on a higher level, and we only have let me say recommended standards. Yeah, maybe common criteria that was relevant for defense, government agencies, and so on. CP to enter into business. That's it. Since year 2025, we have the so-called Radio Equipment Directive that enters into force. What does it mean? Radio Equipment Directive is addressing all digital elements with a wireless interface. Like mainly it's not related to software. It's related to products supporting, for instance, Bluetooth, wireless LAN, and stuff like this. So this 2.0 was planned um, to uh, to have entered into force in October 2024. There's a bug, sorry. Um, Nevertheless, in most countries, the countries are on the way, or didn't have finally agreed a law. Nevertheless, it's an ongoing issue, and it's addressing operators. So for ICT products, mainly in the telecommunication industry, we have optional standards like EUCC, NESA's accelerated cybersecurity certification. Um, Finally, it's mandatory for 5G infrastructure, but that's it. So with year 2027, many things are changing, because with the Cyber Resilience Act, all digital products are affected. Yeah. So, and depending on, let me say, on the criticality of the products, you have to go for cybersecurity certifications. So we have this 2 directive. So, only to give you an outlook, okay, there is a plan, and why NIS 2 is relevant for operators. Maybe when you are in the position of a manufacturer, you may come to the conclusion, I don't care. No, you have to think about it. Why? Because your operators in most cases are your customers. So, and your customers are forced to fulfill special articles for NIS 2. First of all, there is a change in regards to management responsibility, because management in between is responsible, and they have to implement and enforce NIS 2 in compliance, and this would go up to personal liability. Yeah, first point, and that is a big motivator for your or for the management of your customers. Second point is, when you go on the right side, use of European cybersecurity certification systems. Depending on the criticality of the systems, um, your your customers have to, let me say, ensure a cybersecurity certification, and finally they have to prove somehow to their national authorities that they have fulfilled special cybersecurity obligations. Question is how? And the simplest way forward would be to go for cybersecurity certification, because it's an official and neutral document, and that's it. Yeah. Because they have no resources to argue why they are compliant, and so on and so on. And especially when you like to go for a cybersecurity assurance model, um, simplest way forward would be simply to prove your cybersecurity implementation with certification, like for ISO 27001 or for IEC 62443 in regards to solutions or products. Okay, in more detail, depending on whether you are affected, Radio Equipment Directive, RED, enters into force on 8th of August 2027, would mean in around about 2 months. So, there is no cybersecurity certification mandatory. First of all, it is sufficient to do a self-declaration that you are compliant to a related standard called EN 18031-1. Yeah. Nevertheless, when there are deviations available, you need to go for notified body, and in best case, and when thinking on marketing topics, or you like to address, okay, your product is fulfilling a special cybersecurity level, and you need to go for cybersecurity certification. Then we have the Cyber Resilience Act, or as already mentioned. In comparison to WET is addressing only digital products with wireless interfaces. Cyber Resilience Act is addressing all digital products. Yeah, and this is will become mandatory on 11th of December 2027. So motivation, you can read it. So, and we have something in parallel. It's called PSTI, Product Security and Telecommunication Infrastructure Act 2022. So this is something that is released for UK. Yeah, and the main standard is the so-called EN 303645. Okay. So, again, scope of WET, Radio Equipment Directive, digital products or wireless interfaces. So, first of all digital products are affected, supporting frequency range up to 3000 gigahertz. So, you see, Wi-Fi, Zigbee, Bluetooth, whatever is mentioned here. It enters into force into force on 1st of August 2025. So, in the case, and you need to have it, you have to have a, let me say, a compliance to get a CE label. Only with the CE label, you are allowed to sell products in the European Union. Now, coming to the case, you already have a CE label because you released your products before 1st of August 2025. The CE label still remains valid, but in the case you are significantly changing your software, for instance, an upgrade or whatever, yeah, and that has an impact on cybersecurity, you need to go for proof that you are compliant according EN 18031-1. So, in the case of deviations of the standard, for instance, you are not fulfilling a major requirement, you have to go to a notified body who is stating, okay, everything fine, yeah, because it doesn't have a significant impact on your cybersecurity, and you will get the report of the notified body that you may get your CE label despite of the deviations. Okay, simply as let me say, as a kind of picture, what is behind 18031-X 123? In most cases, the -1 part is relevant for connected radio equipment. You can see here, let me say, the major groups, what has to be fulfilled: access control mechanism, authentication, secure update mechanism. This is more or less reflecting best practice cybersecurity settings or features that you're knowing already from last century. Yeah, it's no rocket science. We know it from IT. So, Cyber Resilience Act is a little bit more, let me say, from feature requirements is a little bit more detailed. But again, so Cyber Resilience Act is addressing four product groups. First of all, we have, and in many it's addressing consumer products. On the left side, we speak about non-critical products like video games, photo image editing, and so on, because these non-critical products are, let me say, are covering 90%, around about 90% of the products that are manufactured in European Union. So, and then what is relevant, critical products or highly critical products. It really depends on, let me say, uh, the what the product itself will cover. We have class 1, it's on the left side of the critical products. For instance, examples are antivirus software, network components, password manager, and so on. Then we have class 2. So, for instance, it's about attack detection systems, firewall, and so on, and highly critical products like smart metering gateways, smart cards, so, products which really have a significant impact. And for these highly critical products, you need to go for certification. But this is the formal topic. From economic perspective, I only would recommend you to go for certification, because this would facilitate the complete process. And I already know now that big operators and big manufacturers are requesting certifications. Nevertheless, to which of the products the product will belong, is a critical product class 1, class 2, or highly critical product, because they simply like to facilitate the procurement process. And it's much simpler to say, okay, come on, give me your certificate, and we can say, okay, it's fine for our, let me say, for our usage, yeah, and to integrate it in our solutions or whatever. So, this is a picture of CENELEC. For the Cyber Resilience Act, CENELEC is working on a so-called harmonized standard. So, and this is something, it's still in discussion, but the IEC itself is a global standard, a global known standard for cybersecurity, especially for industry. Yeah, and the CENELEC is discussing to use the IEC 62443-4-1. It's a secure product development lifecycle. It's a process, plus the IEC 62443-4-2. It's about product, secure product capabilities. Yeah, would mean, okay, this is based on best practice, cybersecurity implementations, for instance, secure authentication and stuff like this. To use this combination as harmonized standards. So, and this would, let me say, cover both topics. First of all, this is known as global and accepted as global standard, and in parallel you can use it to fulfill cyber resilience. Great story, right? And on the left side you can see, okay, which classes, for which classes you can use you could use the IEC 62443. So then, this is an overview about IEC 62443. So this means, okay, there is no, let me say, overall standard. You will get the certificate. You can do cherry picking. Yeah. So I like to go to a more simple picture. So especially for the manufacturers on the right side, um, main standard parts are about the secure product development lifecycle. Yeah, it's a process for -4-1, and then about technical security requirements for ISCS components, would mean industrial components. But for this part, you only can go for product-related certification. There is no solution-related certification behind. No. So, okay, coming to the end, just a short introduction into the IEC 62443-4-1 product development requirements in more detail. Current status, when you are going, or in most cases when I'm going to manufacturers of products, they are creating products, and then finally they are coming to the conclusion, oh, we need to do something in regards to cybersecurity. And at the end of the development of a product, they are executing a security test. So this, and the security test in most cases is budget driven. So is this approach right? It's not, because First of all, security test needs to be performed by an independent company, first point, and you should address the cybersecurity level you need to address, and not only having a look to the budget. Okay, maybe we have some thousands euros available to perform a security test. The standard itself is requesting, in the first phase, a threat and risk analysis. You are identifying all assets. This would mean hardware, software, interfaces, and maybe processes, and identifying for each asset the cybersecurity risks, and then trying and then identifying the possible risks, the outcome. Is it an acceptable risk or is it a catastrophic risk? And then, in case, for instance, of catastrophic risk, you are trying to fix the risk by using mitigations or maybe compensating measures, or maybe by implementing additional cybersecurity requirements. Yeah. So we would come to the second step: definition of cybersecurity requirements to close all gaps. And then you have the product, but you need to implement the product into a security architecture. First of all, you have to define a security architecture for the product, but you need to think about the use case of the product in the solution. Yeah. So you are defining security architecture. What are the frame conditions for the product? Then you are going to the development phase under consideration of coding guidelines. You are creating a document to help the integrators or operators to implement the product, and to guide him, okay, how you can configure and integrate the product under security considerations. And then when you have done your homework right, yeah, following all processual steps, you are performing a security test, and the security test is more or less a verification that you have done a good or bad homework. Yeah? And that's very important, because in most cases, this process simply is not followed. Okay, again, recommendation would be to go for IEC 62443 as global standard for Cyber Resilience Act, and to address global business, because it's really globally known. So it is supporting best practices, would mean there's nothing extra. Finally, you are already knowing now the related requirements. And with the IEC 62443, you can fulfill in parallel the right. For instance, we are offering um, cybersecurity certification according IEC 62443 to fulfill RED plus Cyber Resilience Act. Yeah. So, and on at the end, you can see, okay, there are two slides from European Commission stating, because harmonized standard is still not finalized, they are stating, okay, the harmonized standard will be based on IEC 62443 as example, yeah, for industrial products. And this was the first slide known from end of year 2023. And finally, the slide on the right side is we are knowing since beginning of this year. Yeah, it has been released, but again, it's still in discussion, and I guess this will be released. Okay, thank you. That's it. And here, I guess the slides will be shared afterwards. Here you will find my contact data in case of questions. And now handing over to Amit again.
Thank you very much, Gerard, for all these valuable insights. So, as we move forward into the second part of the session, over next 10 to 15 minutes, I will highlight the key benefit of the Qt framework, development framework, and introduce various Qt tools that are making an impact on the connected industry, and which will also help you to get the certification part. To briefly introduce Qt Group, we offer our product development tools and framework across 70 different industries. Qt is a European technology. We have headquarters in Finland and we have offices across the world. Cyber security is built around the CIA thought: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are three principles which are essential for accessing and implementing the effective security measures. Confidentiality ensures that data is accessible only to the authorized individual. For example, secure communication protocol. Integrity It means the data is protected from the unauthorized modification, like digital signatures. Availability ensures that readability and the continuous access to the system, for example, recovering planning. Failing to uphold this principle can result in several operation consequences. Few of those consequences I have listed on this slide. Data breach can cost millions and it can also damage the critical infrastructure. Let's start with the few basic challenges. For every connected device, it is a potential entry point for the threats. Whether you are using, as Gerard explained, Ethernet, Wi Fi, Bluetooth, or cellular connectivity, everything comes under certain certification part. And these channels can be exploited if not properly secured and certified. Further, Industry 4.0 requires updates on some equipments, whether those upgrades are coming from the CRA regulations or maybe you are adding some new features. That means the software upgrades are essential. The OTA upgrades make connected device prone to the attack. Let also look again regarding the regulation. So we are witnessing a rapid change in the regulation and the standard aimed at the embedded and connected product. Compliance is not just about the best practices anymore, it becoming the legal requirement. For example, EAL is the globally recognized standard for accessing the security of the IT products. IEC 62443 focused on the industrial automation and the control system, defining the roles and responsibility of the securing industrial environment. IEC 27001 is the key information security maintenance management uh, requirement in the both consumer and the industrial sector. And last but not the least, the European Cyber Security Resilience Act, which Gerald also touched upon. It's a landmark uh, regulation. It imposes mandatory cybersecurity requirement on hardware and the software product, from design to development to the post-sales upgrade and vulnerability management. The regulation enforces that the idea of the security must be built in, not bolted on. It requires transparency. Manufacturers must document, monitor, and communicate about the vulnerability throughout the product lifecycle. For the developers and the companies, this means tighter alignment between design, development, and the certification process. In the first session, Gerald told about the CRA mandatory. CRA is mandatory for all digital product, and it is coming full force in the 2027. The alignment between design, development, certification process is the fundamental benefit from the Qt workflow. Qt workflow start with based on the identify risk and the task vector, which are the part of the product specification. The point which was touched by the Gerald in his presentation, where he was explaining product development and the requirements, it's the initial input to the Qt workflows. Later, Qt workflow, uh, the UI creation is done in a professional design tool. UI design is imported to the development tools where the application logic is added. This tool is integrated into the continuous upward from here. For example, the code coverage. This allows developer to see immediately where certain part of the UI or the application logics are not tested. It allows to control surface of the attack. Architecture and the coding standard compliancy testings are also tightly integrated into the development process. If your product needs to comply with the security coding practices, then verification of the coding also happens during the development phase. This is supported by the Qt XCVM product. Other quality assurance tools such as Squish, responsible for the automated GUI testing, also bring alignment between design, development, and the certification process. Qt framework is a collection of libraries. Many of you already know what is Qt all about, and it is designed to support success of software product across the industries. It includes more than 5 million lines of actively maintained and managed code, offering and we are also offering robust tool for building the industrial um, controller interface. Qt provide excellent portability across the various environment, and it's a hardware agnostic platform. Now I will go through some key aspect. So Qt cover key aspect of deploying the secure and customized industrial application. For example, Qt application management, it enables secure and modular application deployment with the features like digital signing, container execution, and hardware building. Qt also offers robust and secure communication for the SSL, cryptography, and X509 certificates. It supports natively TLS backends, OpenSSL, and custom plugins. Qt Network Authorization provides built-in support for the OAuth 1 and 2 protocols. Developers can optimize their application by performing the static build. That includes only the necessary module for the application. It allows to minimize the external dependency and reduce the surface of attack. These key aspect allows you to build secure application for the industrial automation. At Qt, we do not believe on the black box in coding. We provide tools and method to validate each step, each line of your code, so that developer do not leave any unintentional backdoors for the cyber attacks. Qt also aims to continue providing its long-term support every 5 years. Support can be extended by the extended support and extended security maintenance. This allows you to maintain your industrial controller up to date beyond 10 years. This will also help you in the CRA compliancy and the regulations. This schema provides an overview of the various quality assurance tools from the Qt. From the left-hand side, architecture analysis and static code analysis tool, XCVM tools, are utilized during the implementation phase. Graphical user interface automated testing tool, Squish, on the right hand side, is used during the application test execution phase. And in the middle, the code coverage tool Coco, it is used during the development phase and during the build phase to generate the coverage it generates the coverage reports of your application. All these tools in this workflow can be executed locally or in the CI/CD pipeline, but this uh, helps you during your development phase to create a certifiable product. I will go deep inside in two of these tools. Code code coverage. What is code coverage and why it is important? So code coverage percentage r- represents the confidence in your code. Qt Coco tool help you to identify the coverage of your test. Help in the It helps in the coverage level, test data generation, black box testing, and in turn it checks if the critical code is tested and validated. This will definitely help you during your certification phase. And during the certification phase, you have to sometimes give the reports of your code coverage, and Coco allows you to produce those kind of reports. No matter if it is about industrial automation solution, manufacturing solution, or factory or automation, most of our customers are united by the safety requirements. They have to fulfill whether IEC 6150 508 or some other standard. Here, Axiom products are helping them. Axiom architecture analyze. It detects architecture flaws which can be exploited by the hackers. It also detects the specifications are followed as specifications are followed during the development phase. Static code analysis. It verifies that coding is done according to the standards. For example, some some standard coding rules like MISRA, CART, CWE checks are done during the development phase. Axiom also helps you to reduce the cycle. So it detects the cycle detection, which in turn on protects you the potential denial or service attacks. Over QA tools, Axiom Coco Squish helps in the software products where certification is required. In this context, Qt can provide qualification kit as such as IEC 61508, ISO 26262, and more, which I have described on this slide. As a conclusion of my second part, cybersecurity is a mandatory topic for the customer product development and and certification process. Qt has a solid professional cybersecurity process in the place for its product development and for its infrastructure. Qt is fully auditable. As I was explaining you, at Qt we don't believe in the black box, so you can fully audit the Qt source code. Qt tools can help customer for their own cybersecurity process, Axiom or Coco tools, for example. In the case if you want to raise a specific cybersecurity issue against the Qt product or Qt processes, please use our customer portal and inform us about it. And if you are using Qt commercial license, which is helping you in by accessing the long-term support packages, you can lock your devices. You need not comply with the GPL and LGPL constraints. So this allows you to build a secure product. Well, this was the my final slide, and now we enter to the Q&A session. And during this Q&A session, I will read through the questions, and as I was already explaining in the beginning, we will try to answer as many questions as we can, and the other questions we will follow up by the email. So I see the first question: how does Qt ensure secure application installation and upgrade across different platforms? So, so let me take this one. So Qt application management, which I was specifying. So Qt application manager, it, it allows you to sign your application. It allows you to run your application in a digital container. And if you are deploying, for example, on the Android or on the iOS, you can also sign the manifest. So in the Qt framework, you also have access to the OpenSSL protocols. You also have access to the digital signature. So that all allows you to ensure that your applications is secure. I hope that answers the first question. Then there is one more question. True TI is using and owns the. This was already the answer. Okay. Yes, you have already answered it then.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Nevertheless, I can repeat the question. there was a question like, could you provide an example of the threat and risk analysis for products that includes host PC, hardware, operating system, and application software? So we as TYT are using an own tool for threat and risk analysis that is reflecting the so-called standard IEC 62443-3-2. So, and this is not something that you can do in 1 or 2 minutes. So, we are offering this as a service and as supported threat and risk analysis. Would mean you will get a use right of the threat and risk analysis tool, and we will guide you through the tool, um, using examples and enabling you to run your own threat and risk analysis in the future by your own. Yeah.
S- Oh, thank, thank you, Gerald. There is another question. Can XCVM tools verify coding standard like MISRA? Okay, this is about the Qt XCVM product. So I will take this. So the XCVM product, yeah, you can do several things. So you can detect dead code. You can detect copy paste like clone code. You can detect the cycle detection, and of course, it also allows you to verify your architecture violation. Um, XCVM in XCVM you can enforce by the several coding standards. So MISRA definitely yes. We also support AutoSAR, CWEE standards where you can verify whether your developers are following the coding standards. And further, you can also perform static analysis to find if there are potential bug or risky contents. For example, sometimes stack overflow or buffer overflow. So all these things, all these different advanced check are supported by the XCVM. I hope this answers. There is uh, one more question which we can take. Um, the question is about um, what contains the security upgrades in the Qt framework. So I was explaining you the Qt long-term support is for the 5 years. And when we support a particular version of the Qt for 5 years, it contains security patches. So every known vulnerability examples, buffer overflow, injection overflow. It also contains the CVE fixes. If there is a new CVE detected, so we will fix those CVE and provide in the upgrade. There are libraries update which are also provided during the security updates in the Qt. Sometimes we also announce some of our APIs for the security. And once we support a version for in the LTS, you can also ask the long term the extended support on this LTS so that you can support your product for more than 5 years and sometimes 10, 15 years. Okay, so there are some more questions, and time is running out. So for the remaining questions, we will follow up by the email. I thank you for your attention during this webinar, Gerald. Thank you very much, and we will see each other in another webinar or in a TED show. Thank you very much. And if you have further questions, please free to write me or Gerald. Uh, Thank you and have a rest of the nice day. Bye bye.